This is the classic case of a demand shock leading to price increases. However, a supply shock is imminent. Presently, we are purchasing 3 times the amount of production. That will increase output to 6 times what it is now. But that's not all. Taking into account the miners' real sales, that's just 6 times the present production. However, a small number of the miners were intending to purchase. The GBTC sell-off has caused weeks of uncertainty, yet Bitcoin has once again, as it soared to almost $448,000 per coin, it once again became a symbol of hope for investors. Its increases over the last 5 days, 6 months, and year are quite remarkable, coming in at 12%, 64%, and 12.62% respectively. This rebound is due in large part to the phenomenal success of recently introduced spot Bitcoin ETFs, while the S&P index has exhibited more modest gains of 21% reaching record highs. Along with other top performers, he mentions ARXARB and Bitwise SPB. Notable performers include BlackRockabit and Fidelity Dutch, both of which have over $3 billion in assets. With steady inflows since debut, these ETFs have clearly made a big splash in the market. These upcoming milestones are crucial, according to Mark Yusko of Blockworks Macro, who is looking ahead to the halving event in 2024. Despite the recent volatility, Yusko expects even more significant changes as the halving approaches in April, which signals an exciting and potentially fruitful period for investors. These 2 beginnings of 2024 are not ideal. Neither of these starts was the finest of the past 5 years. Neither of the top. Commencement of exchange-traded funds specifically for commodities. No, those aren't the 2 best TF launches ever put out by the world's top financial firms. Both of these Fs had excellent beginnings. A narrative of supply and demand, nothing more. In the months preceding the final approval, which, incidentally, we discussed this extensively. We were off by 2 or 3 days, but other than that, we were spot on. People still haven't gotten it. There's a 2-step procedure, you know. The demand shock, characterized by an insatiable hunger similar to that of a sailor, is not an isolated incident. In Michael's case, it was more like a dinosaur or python, a single bite followed by digestion, followed by another bite, and so on. This is more like the most ravenous jungle cat. I have no idea what it is that hunts and eats not every day, but at least once a week. Because of the resistance from those in charge, this is going to drag on for a long time, isn't it? Yeah, that's not welcome here, according to everyone who's on the side of the Warren family. We do not welcome those new Fs. Time will cause it to crumble one by one, and the amount of money attempting to squeeze past the gate will rise. It is the halving cycle that causes the 4-year cycle to occur. In addition, the possessing cycle is static. That will remain. We experienced a demand shock due to the supply and demand. That is exactly what I meant to say. I thought we experienced the demand shock. These items were approved of by us. Thus, the common man can now begin to shop. As of right now, the Fidelity-wide portfolio allocates 1%, actually, 1% to 3% to this. So they have a master TF that they use to deploy all of their other ETFs according to their strategy. They hold 1% of FBTC and have a weighting of 1% to 3%. A demand shock causes prices to spike. That much is true. This is the evidence that we have. However, a supply shock is imminent. And supply shock is sure to follow, regardless of the day, whether it's 417, 418S, or folks hoping for 420. This is actually taking place, and we're reducing our daily output from 900 to 450. Okay, that is occurring given the volume of incoming funds. Presently, we are purchasing 3 times the amount of production. That will increase output to 6 times what it is now. But that's not all. Taking into account the miners' real sales, that's just 6 times the present production. However, a small number of the miners were intending to purchase. I mean, it's like they were actively purchasing instead of selling to cover their power costs. That can't go on indefinitely. People are only adding to their savings accounts in anticipation of this shift. Therefore, it's just a speculative move. Additionally, the concept of treasuries is not sufficiently discussed. Obviously, the largest portion of his wealth is held by MicroStrategy. He has essentially become a Bitcoin bank in his own right. However, Morgan Creek isn't the only company that has secretly added Bitcoin to its balance sheet. We may not be Sailor, but we carry it. Part of Putin's remarks in the interview were exactly this. Sanctions that weaponize the dollar inevitably turn the sanctioned against those who are subject to them. Also, I really like the name you gave it, Twitter. You have my gratitude. Call it Twitter instead of X. However, I want to emphasize that he included the numbers in his statement. According to him, 3% of our trade was conducted in yuan 5 years ago, while 34% was in dollars for Russia. Our current dollar to yuan ratio is 13% and 34% respectively. When it comes to the economy, who is doing better? I correct? The choice by policymakers to censure and compel these other countries is undermining the credibility of the world reserve currency, which is similar to the 1,971 petrodollar standard. I believe that credibility should be high, and there is ample evidence to back it up. There is a direct correlation between Iran's oil production before and after the sanctions. Why, though? They will discover another market for their oil. Does America genuinely support free speech? Is that freedom with all its taxes and inflation? Currently, which nation does not impose some form of taxation? Is the pillaging of an entire population by means of inflation kind of oppression? It was you, as I mentioned before. Someone can decide to have inflation. There was no inflation between the years 1776, when the Republic was founded, and 1913. The U.S. did not experience any systematic inflation. I simply want to make a point about the class system. Many people's financial futures are in the balance because of the choices being made by a small group of people. Make use of the lockdowns. That was the largest redistribution of wealth in human history, going from the masses to an extremely small elite. I hate to use the term billionaire class, but that is exactly who $3.70 trillion went to. Nobody is more problematic than Yellen, who even used the term unsustainable to describe the situation. And this course of action cannot continue indefinitely. When our politicians discuss economic policy, I can only imagine how it makes you feel. It doesn't make me feel good. Plus, it hits home when I hear McDonald's CEO claim that, according to their own data, families with incomes below $45,000 are cutting out McDonald's as a result of